Hello from a rather wet Douarnenez. This is an introduction to a video I actually made last November, and I'm just putting it out now because there were rather a number of sensitivities at the time and it didn't seem the right time to put it out then. So it's a little bit flawed in that I was still struggling with recording sound in wind, and I haven't bothered to re-record those sections. I've left it as rather a historical piece, so I hope you'll be indulgent about that. I think the story is very interesting, and you may also find it charming that obviously there was at that time none of us were imagining that we'd be spending much of the year to come in lockdown due to COVID-19. Hello, this is the Port area of Douarnenez, where I now live for much of the year. And Douarnenez is a big fishing port, still a fishing port, but it was a very, very big fishing port in the 19th century, big industrial fishing port. But this area was a cargo port. Port was the cargo port, and this would have been full of coasters even up to the Second World War. This black lugger here, which is called Grayhound, and she was built by Marcus and Freya, who are a pair of keen sailors who decided that they would build a replica revenue lugger. And based here there is an organisation called TUOWT, Transport à la Voile, and they have various cargo ships in contract to them. Grayhound is one of the vessels that is part of this. The Gallant here is another one of the ships that operates out of Douarnenez, carrying cargo on the sail. So you see here something of the spirit of Douarnenez. This sort of thing still happens. There are lots of wooden boat builders here, and there is a sense that here, as in Falmouth in Britain, the flame of this sort of sailing still survives. It's not just about pleasure sailing, which is a perfectly noble thing to do, but there is something very true and honest about operating these sorts of vessels in the modern world, I think. It makes not a dent on modern patterns of trade by sea. One has to admit that. Even motor cargo ships 10 times the size of Greyhound are unviable in the modern world, let alone sailing ships. Modern cargo at sea is transported on huge ships at infinitesimally small rates. It is really cheap to transport cargo on such big ships, and you just cannot make a vessel like this pay? There is no way you could borrow money to build a boat like that, put her on the sea and carry cargo and pay your crew a living wage. It doesn't stack up at all. So this is about doing something spiritual. It is about doing something that says we can do things differently. There is a different future for humanity, and if we are to engage with the problems that confront us, to do with pollution, to do with global warming, we have to rethink our attitudes to life, and maybe we have to engage with life in a different way. And that is what it's for. It's there as a symbol. And I wanted to be part of that. Just been out, trying out a newly cut sail, well, an adjusted sail. So it was a quick dash around the bay. Quite, it's very calm in here, it's not quite so calm out there. I first came here a good 20 years ago, and eventually I arrived in a yacht that I owned at the time, and I put her on the beach just further down the harbour here because I didn't have the money to get her craned out, and we put her on the beach on legs and then scrubbed her bottom and put new anti-fouling on. And I remember thinking at that time, perhaps I could stay here. Very, very nearly did stay here. There were all sorts of problems in my life at the time. Anyway, I did sail back. There was a northerly wind, and it was a real battle to get back across the channel. Anyway, it was almost like the elements didn't want me to go back to England, but I did go back to England. And there I lived for the last 19 years. But anyway, here I am again, and I am one of many people who is seeking refuge somewhere else from the winds of political change that are blowing through many of our lives. And so I have a flat overlooking this harbour, and I would look out of my windows and see Grayhound. She's sometimes moored here and she's sometimes moored a little bit further along. And I would think maybe I should go sailing in her.
That's a good warming up moment. Love it, isn't it? Oh yeah. Imagine when we're only 2 or 3. Right. That's cool. Okay. Come up to me. Up and drop. Beautiful.
Put photos collectively. Yeah. So I'm sure some people had an opportunity to take photos while we were working or whatever.
Yeah.
Anchored in the middle of the bay, we see the bark Belém, an authentic trading sailing ship from the end of the 19th century.
Ah, vous allez où? À Brest. Alors, on vient d'installer un nouveau générateur à bord. Comment tu vas?
Then we hoist sail and set our course to the west, out of the Bay of Douarnenez and into the Atlantic. 100 miles into the Bay of Biscay, we broke our bowsprit, and so that rather compromised the strength of our foremast, the three-masted lugger, and so we are now running back into Douarnenez, which we will get to early tomorrow morning, hopefully, to do repairs, and that's really the end of the voyage, and really rather a calamity for Marcus and Freya, who run this boat. So this is rather a sad and early end to our crossing of Biscay. We couldn't risk any sail on the foremast, and that meant we could put no sail on the mizzenmast either, or the boat would be unbalanced. So all we had to get us back to Douarnenez was a lugsail on the mainmast and a staysail between mainmast and foremast, in what would have been a wonderful beam reach to take us to Galicia. Already we had worried that this could be the end of Grayhound as a sailing cargo ship, of Grayhound as owned by Marcus and Freya. It wasn't that we couldn't get these things repaired, we could get the damage repaired in Douarnenez, but that meant the ship was heading in the wrong direction. She was meant to be going to the Azores, to Madeira, to Galicia. This was the beginning of summer. We needed the freight, we needed the receipts from the charter parties, and yet here we were heading the wrong way, heading back to Douarnenez. The Breton flag had been put away because we were sailing for Spain, but now it came out again as we entered the deep bay of Douarnenez. We come alongside the pontoon in Treboul so we can examine the foremast. We take off the gaiter and Marcus taps the mast all around. It is fractured all the way through. This is very serious. We are going to have the mast hauled out so that the whole lower section can be replaced or repaired. And so Grayhound comes back into Port with an uncertain future ahead of her. What are we going to do about the broken bowsprit and the fractured foremast? Will she be able to go back south and pick up at least the second half of her Atlantic circuit, and at least defray some of the costs that she has borne by this calamity in the Bay of Biscay? We do not know, but the sun shines in Douarnenez and the local people come out to see the black lugger come home.